All right, let's dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book, I'm really excited to break down some of the core ideas that Robert Kiyosaki presents. It's all about, his own journey, comparing his biological dad's advice with the insights he got from his friend's dad, who he calls his rich dad.
It's a really interesting contrast.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have Kiyosaki's father,
Mm.
a highly educated guy, but struggled financially, kind of
Right.
like represents that traditional idea of job security, home ownership. And then you've got his mentor, this self-made entrepreneur who's all about financial literacy, building assets, the kind of stuff that puts money in your pocket.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about all those money assumptions we kind of grew up with, Like take home ownership, for example. I mean, that's the American dream, right?
Right.
Rich Dad kind of turns that on its head, though, saying your house is actually a liability.
Yeah, he's not saying don't buy a house.
Yeah.
It's more about seeing that for a lot of people, that mortgage, property taxes, the upkeep, it all just sucks your cash flow, makes it harder to build real wealth.
Okay, so instead of automatically aiming for that big house, the white picket fence, we should maybe be thinking, what are the assets that'll actually make me money, help me get to that financial freedom?
Exactly. That's what makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad so interesting. It really pushes you to think differently, like shift your focus from working for money to having money work for you.
I love that. And it all goes back to that story with Kiyosaki as a kid, like 9 years old, working for a rich dad for, what was it, 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think a successful businessman would pay a decent wage, but there's a deeper lesson there, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Eventually, Kiyosaki even worked for free, realizing that trading time for money just keeps you stuck. It's like that rat race he talks about. Running on a treadmill, working hard, but not really getting ahead.
And that experience, it seems like that's what really drove him to break free from that cycle, to build things that generate income even when he's not clocking in, right?
Yeah, it's about creating systems that make money, not just relying on a paycheck.
Now, another big idea in the book is this whole mind your own business thing. But it's not just about starting a company, is it?
No, not necessarily. It's more about focusing on growing your asset column, the things that put money in your pocket. Think real estate, stocks, businesses, anything that generates income.
Ah, that's where that Ray Kroc example fits in, right? Rich Dad said the McDonald's founder wasn't really in the hamburger business, he was in the real estate business.
Right. Kroc understood the value of that land under each franchise. He was building a real estate empire, basically. And that's a big part of minding your own business, seeing those underlying assets, how they make money.
It's like thinking outside the box, seeing those opportunities that most people miss.
Exactly. And that's another reason why understanding financial statements is so important. The book stresses being able to, read those numbers like they're telling a story.
Yeah.
They show you the health of a business, help you make smarter decisions about where to put your money.
It's like cracking the code to financial success. Okay, get ready for this one. This is where it gets a little controversial. One of the biggest claims in the book is that the rich don't pay taxes. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but there's more to it.
Yeah, you got to consider the context, right? Kiyosaki's mentor explained how taxes were originally meant to target the wealthy, but over time it shifted more to the middle class.
And Rich Dad said, corporations give you legal ways to protect your assets and optimize your taxes, which is how he built his wealth. He wasn't advocating for tax evasion, but more like, understand the system, use it legally to your advantage.
It's about being financially smart, not just obedient. Rich Dad, Poor Dad wants you to learn the rules of the game. Use them to your benefit.
So, speaking of pushing the boundaries, what about this idea that the rich invent money? What does that even mean? It's like some kind of alchemy.
Well, for Kiyosaki's mentor, money was an idea. It's something you create by understanding financial principles, seeing opportunities others don't. He didn't just earn money, he leveraged it to make more.
It's about seeing those market dynamics, having the know-how to spot those money-making opportunities.
Yeah, and tells his story about buying a house for $20,000 and flipping it for $60,000 in, hours. Just shows how the rich don't just find money, they make it.
That's insane. And it reminds me of another key point in the book, overcoming obstacles.
Right.
We all face them, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about 5 main roadblocks on the path to financial success. Let's see, there's fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Yeah, each one can really trip you up. Fear can stop you dead in your tracks. Cynicism can make you miss opportunities. And laziness, well, it just keeps you stuck. Bad habits, like spending too much, they prevent you from building wealth. and arrogance that can stop you from learning and growing.
And I love how the book uses real life stories to illustrate these points. Like that story about Kiyosaki's friend who spoiled his kids, gave them everything. It totally backfired, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because those kids never learned the value of money or hard work.
It shows you the danger of trying to protect people from discomfort. Sometimes those tough lessons are the most important.
Rich Dad Poor Dad also talks a lot about reframing failure, right? Remember that story with his mentor using the Alamo as an example?
Hmm.
They lost the battle, but their courage is still celebrated.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that setbacks are inevitable, especially with money. It's how you learn from them and come back stronger that matters.
So think about your own journey, your own relationship with money. What's one obstacle that's holding you back? What's one small step you can take, like today, to start overcoming it?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad reminds us that building wealth is a process, not a quick fix. It takes patience, persistence, and a willingness to learn and grow. And, a big part of that is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Seems simple, right? But Rich Dad, Poor Dad says most people don't really get it.
It's true. We get caught up in how things look, instead of how they actually affect our finances.
Exactly. Like that fancy car, the big house, they might seem like you've made it, but if they're draining your bank account every month, they're not really serving you.
It's that cash flow, or the lack of it, that's key. It's about building a financial picture where your assets are making more than your liabilities are costing you.
Kiyosaki's mentor put it simply: an asset puts money in my pocket, a liability takes money out.
So it's not just about what you own, it's how it impacts your bottom line, which again kind of challenges that conventional thinking like a house is a good investment, but Rich Dad Poor Dad wants us to look at it differently.
He says for many people, a house is actually a liability. Think about it. Mortgage, property taxes, insurance, repairs, all that takes money out of your pocket.
So you're working to keep that house instead of having that money work for you in other ways.
Exactly. Brings us back to that minding your own business idea. Rich Dad, Poor Dad says most of us spend our lives working for everyone else.
We work for our employers, the government through taxes, the bank with that mortgage. It's like you're running on that hamster wheel but going nowhere.
And Kiyosaki's mentor, he really drives this home. He says, if you work for money, you give the power to your employer. If money works for you, you keep the power and control your destiny.
Powerful stuff. So how do we break free from that cycle? Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about financial literacy, right? It's not just earning money, it's understanding how it works, how to make it work for you.
Yeah, it's learning those skills. Accounting, managing cash, investing strategies. That's how you analyze opportunities, manage risk, make good financial decisions.
And the book, it dives into Kiyosaki's own investments, sharing what he learned in real estate and the stock market.
Mhm.
He talks about buying cheap properties like foreclosures, holding them for cash flow and appreciation, also investing in startups before they go public, for that high growth potential.
Right.
And I like how he's open about his mistakes. He talks about his losses, emphasizing that those were actually crucial to him becoming a better investor.
Yeah, it's that willingness to learn to adapt that Rich Dad, Poor Dad really pushes. It's about seeing those setbacks not as failures, but chances to learn and get better.
And Kiyosaki also acknowledges that investing can be scary, especially when you're starting out. He's a big advocate for starting small, learning as you go.
Find mentors, take classes, even practice with his CASHFLOW game. It's about gradually building those financial skills, getting comfortable making decisions.
Confidence is key, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad really stresses overcoming self-doubt, that fear of messing up, which holds so many people back.
Absolutely. It's recognizing that setbacks happen, but how you handle them determines your success.
He tells this story about a friend who lost a lot of money in real estate, but instead of quitting, he figured out what went wrong, learned from it, and ended up becoming a successful investor.
It's about resilience, bouncing back.
Yeah.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad wants you to reframe how you see risk.
Instead of avoiding it, see it as a potential path to growth and learning.
Think about it. Playing it too safe can be the riskiest thing. You might miss out on those big opportunities that come with taking calculated risks.
Oh, like that story about Alexander Graham Bell offering his telephone patent to Western Union for, what was it, $100,000?
100,000, yeah. They thought it was too risky, turned him down, and, well, missed out on one of the most valuable inventions ever.
Wow, what a missed opportunity. It really highlights how sticking to the status quo can hold you back, while calculated risk-taking with knowledge and experience can lead to massive success.
Now, let's talk about something that often makes people uncomfortable: taxes. Rich Dad, Poor Dad dives into the history of taxes, explaining how they were initially intended to target the wealthy. But over time, the burden shifted to the middle class.
Right.
Kiyosaki's mentor argued that the wealthy use corporations to legally protect their assets and optimize their tax liabilities. It's not about evading taxes, it's about understanding the system and using it legally to your advantage.
Like playing a game, right? You need to know the rules and strategies to win.
Exactly. The book encourages readers to educate themselves on these legal strategies and, to seek professional guidance if needed.
It's about taking control of your finances, not leaving it all in the hands of the government. You have the power to shape your own financial future. Okay, one of the most intriguing concepts in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the idea that the rich invent money. It almost sounds like magic, doesn't it?
It's not about literally printing money, of course.
Mm.
It's more about realizing that money can be created through, well, creative thinking and financial intelligence.
So Kiyosaki's mentor, he saw money as an idea, something you can create by understanding financial principles and leveraging those market dynamics. He didn't just work for money, he made money work for him.
And he illustrates this with that story about buying a house for 20 grand and selling it for 60,000 within hours. It's all about recognizing opportunities, adding value, and acting decisively, seeing potential where others just see problems.
That story really gets the wheels turning. It makes you realize that money isn't just something you earn through hard work, it's something you can create with innovation and financial savvy.
And while Rich Dad, Poor Dad really encourages that entrepreneurial spirit, it also cautions against those get-rich-quick schemes. True wealth, lasting wealth, it takes a solid foundation.
It's about having that long-term vision, investing consistently, letting your assets grow over time. Not chasing fads, but building a sustainable future.
Now, it's important to remember, Rich Dad, Poor Dad offers one perspective. Read critically, evaluate the information, consider different viewpoints.
Yeah, the book has its share of both fans and critics. Some say Kiyosaki oversimplifies things, or that his strategies aren't for everyone.
But even those who disagree with parts of it, they recognize its value in starting conversations about money, challenging how we traditionally think about it, makes us confront our own beliefs.
At the end of the day, Rich Dad Poor Dad encourages us to question things, to think differently about wealth, and take control. It's about empowering yourself to create the life you want, not just settle for what you're told to have. And a huge part of that is developing our financial intelligence, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad really breaks it down into those skills we need to build.
Yeah, Kiyosaki talks about 5 key areas:
Hmm.
accounting, investing, understanding markets, the law, and then being able to combine all 4.
He says mastering those areas, that's what lets you make smart decisions, create opportunities. It's like having a roadmap for the world of money, right?
It's not just knowing the stuff, it's using it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about being proactive, finding mentors, building a network of people you trust who can help guide you.
I love that idea of having a team of experts, you know? We can't be specialists in everything, but we can surround ourselves with those who are.
Exactly. It's knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, using the expertise of others to help you succeed. Now, along with those financial skills, Rich Dad, Poor Dad also talks about getting over our fear of failing.
Something we all deal with, right? That fear of making mistakes, it can be paralyzing. But the book encourages us to change how we think about it.
Kiyosaki's mentor, he believed that fear is one of the biggest things holding people back, especially when it comes to money. He really pushed people to embrace failure, see it as a chance to learn, build that resilience to bounce back.
It reminds me of that quote, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. And when we approach things with that attitude, that growth mindset, we see setbacks as stepping stones, not roadblocks.
Kiyosaki also reminds us that even the best investors make mistakes. It's not about avoiding them altogether, but learning from them, refining our approach.
Hmm.
He's open about his own losses, saying those were actually crucial to his success. They taught him lessons he could use going forward.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the last and probably the most important message of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, taking action.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just read about this stuff or dream about a better future. We got to actually do something, make those bold moves, get out of our comfort zones.
It's like that saying, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Love it.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad encourages us to start small, make offers, learn as we go, Never stop building that financial intelligence. It's about getting that momentum going, those consistent efforts. That's what leads to real change.
The book even gives us some practical to-dos to get started. Kiyosaki says find mentors, take classes, make offers on properties, investments, overcome that fear of rejection. Just take those first steps, no matter how small, and keep building on them.
At the end of the day, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a call to action. Take control of your financial future. Create a life of abundance. Question conventional wisdom. Develop that financial IQ. Make money work for you, not the other way around.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what are you going to do like today to start building your financial foundation? What's that one small step you can take to get closer to your goals?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad may not have all the answers, but it definitely asks the right questions, gets you thinking, encourages you to examine your beliefs about money, challenge your limits, and see the possibilities.
And that might be the biggest takeaway. Real wealth isn't just about money. It's about freedom, empowerment, and creating the life you want.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Hope it gave you some things to think about, maybe inspired you to take some action.
Absolutely. Remember, that path to financial freedom, it starts with a single step. What will yours be?